Tanekamara. My name is Sage Blake. I'm a wanderer, storyteller, artist immature, and I got chromosomes in the bone zone. Explaining that, this is Vertebreaker. It's a little indie project that came up during Sage 2019, and it has a bit of a pedigree. It was created by some of the same people who were contracted to work with Sonic Mania. And, well, as you're aware, they did some pretty good work. Apparently, after going into research, they've also done a Darkwing Duck demo, believe it or not, but for one reason or another, that project fell through and they weren't able to, well, get off the ground. It's regrettable, but that's not the only thing regrettable about this project. We'll get to that. But first, and pardon my fumbling with the menus right here, the game. Vertebreaker is a 2D game that uses what's called the Methyl engine. Headcanon has gone many years into creating this specific engine to emulate how games back in the days of the Genesis were. And the culmination is, well, the Methyl engine. You'll see that immediately the moment we get into the game here. This controls almost perfectly like a old Genesis game. And we've got quite a few different moves at our disposal, just across the board. As you saw in the options menu, we have a grapple tether using our spine here. The grappling spine can also be lengthened and retracted. It can also be used to catapult you in various directions too, with a different button. And one of the items I need to bring up immediately is, you're going to be seeing me randomly tether the ground every so often, and that's because, for whatever reason, my L2 button for the PS4 controller I like to use does that. When I hold the button down, it just randomly decides, oh hey, let's tether the ground in front of me, and when I let that button go, it does nothing. I feel like it's supposed to sling you, but I'm not sure. But regardless, there's a separate button for slinging you in direction anyway. It's really easy to build up momentum and catapult yourself across the world here. But even with all of that, it's gonna take a lot of practice to get used to the controls. I mean that. This is a game that is hard. And I could say that with 100% certainty. This is a hard game, and if you don't like hard games, I'm sorry, you probably won't get much enjoyment out of this. Because it's really easy to get hit, it's really easy to get hit multiple times, and the method of attack that you have it has decent range and coverage, but at the same rate, enemies move really quickly to the point that you might actually miss your attacks. And it's really easy to whiff your attacks too. You could be collecting all the bones that you want just to build up your health, and for record, every bone you collect builds up the blue bar. Once it gets past a certain joint in the health bar, you recover a joint of health, and the blue bar restores to 0. Case in point, you'll also notice that this game uses quite a few different sound effects from retro games. The biggest ones I could bring up right off the bat are 2 of them from Vector Man. One of them is the bone collection sound, and I'll give a comparison to a similar sound from Vector Man. They sound pretty similar, don't they? There's also the sound that you heard for capping out the bar, and also the sound that plays for restoring a unit of health. They're pretty similar across the board, and it's mostly an inspiration, but it's also because, well, this is a tech demo. It's not meant to exactly emulate how the full game is going to work, and yeah, that's about it really on that. It's essentially just a proof of concept saying, oh hey, we did this with our engine, and we want to make this a full game. lot of the artwork in this game looks absolutely beautiful. I mean, from the main character himself, who goes nameless, to the platforms of, well, fallen souls that litter this area. Heck, there are even actual spinal columns that you could grapple onto and fling yourself from. That's a really cool way of doing the level geometry in this place. Furthermore, we could also get into the enemies and whatnot that we find in here. They're all centralized around a theme, as you'll notice. And it would obviously be one of a few. It could be horror theme, but that doesn't exactly fit, considering it's very cartoony instead of macabre. It could fit creepy, is the term creepy, but only barely, since it's so cartoony. But no, I think it more fits the whole stereotypical Halloween and that type of vibe. A lot of the enemies that we're encountering are crows, goblins, generally all types of creeps and cretins that you easily associate with Halloween, or in that Plant's case, Little Shop of Horrors. I know it's trying to say feed me Seymour, but I don't think I want to eat Seymour. He doesn't wash regularly, if you know what I mean. That ghost in particular is one of the most annoying enemies in this game, because the window to hit it is very, very specific. You have to attack it first in order to expose it, and then just before it attacks you, you have to hit it or dodge its attack. And colliding into it is just going to reset its pattern, just like with attacking it. It makes it really difficult to find a good opening to attack him, even though he takes one hit to down. Jeez, the Ghostbuster or Skelly ain't. That's another thing about this game. It's really easy to die, and when you do die, you go all the way back to the beginning. In fact, the footage you're about to be seeing right here is a composite of 3 separate runs that I did. And, also menu fumbling in between the second run, mostly because I was trying to figure out my controls. For one reason or another, extend and retract say left trigger and right trigger here, but I was testing them in that first playthrough, and left trigger did the ground grapply thing, right trigger did all of nothing. And weirder still, for whatever reason, this game just doesn't register the PS4's left trigger and right trigger either when I'm trying to input buttons. So I'm just flailing about saying, okay, what the heck is left trigger and right trigger now? As it turns out, and this is a weird one, the right stick is left trigger and right trigger? What? I'm sorry, what? That doesn't make any sense! Yeah, yes, I'm going to pull a trigger. And by pull a trigger, I mean flick a stick. Ugh. But the complaints I have with this game are relatively minor across the board. For one, as I've mentioned, the whole left trigger, right trigger thing, and general button tomfoolery. The second, this is a very small game. Like, for comparison, let me show you the size of this game in comparison to my regular file explorer. That is tiny! It's like half the size! And you can't change it either. I've tried dragging the screen around, I've combed through the menus, nothing. It is stuck to that size no matter what you do. You're just gonna have to deal with it if you end up playing this demo. It's workable, and it really gives you the feel for playing a Genesis game on emulator, but it's an absolute pain, and in order to get this proper footage for the third playthrough, I decided, hey, you know what? Let's actually play this game by looking at the recording window instead of the game itself, because, like I've mentioned, the game is tiny! But other than that, and the difficulty, this game does struggle with one more little problem, in that you're gonna die. A lot. Like, it's unavoidable that you're going to die. To the point that the game actually says, you know what, congratulations for trying as much as you have, we're just going to make this a collectathon. See how many enemies you can defeat and how many bones you could pick up before you die. It's amusing, but it's also kind of patronizing. I mean, I don't play collectathon games all that much. Ow! Dude! Knock it off! But yeah, like, I don't play collectathon games all that much, but when I do... Actually, come to think of it, I don't think I own any collectathon games. I mean, I never played Banjo-Kazooie or anything like that. Well, anyway, you can gather momentum in this game pretty easily using the grappling spine. And it's really simple to fling yourself around. It's really fun, too. Whee! If you end up playing this demo, try to do your best. Try to collect as much as you can. Show me your scores in the comments section if you so wish. I kind of want to see how people have done over the span of now in the contest. Because I've seen several people play this game, and absolutely none of them did well, myself included. That should put it into perspective onto how hard this game is. I'd actually argue that this is the hardest game offered within Sage 2019. Yeah, even harder than Hellfire Saga or even Dunker. This game, which is just a glorified tech demo. Though, now that we're getting into the whole tech demo thing, I feel like I need to mention something critical about this game. This game got a Kickstarter. And this is when we get into the sticky part of the commentary. Because yeah, it did get a Kickstarter, but that Kickstarter ended about a week in November. The reasoning was fairly straightforward, in that the creators, well, specifically the lead creator, ran out of funds. Believe it or not, he's worked on, well, as I've mentioned, the ports of Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, but also Mania and Mania Plus. But it was on a contract, so any and all money that was received from the game, he's not seeing. Specifically because he did contract work. It was, okay, you'll work with us for a specific amount of time, and we'll pay you a specific amount of money. As of November of the last year, he ended up having to do an apology video stating, okay, if I'm going to make this project actually work, the Kickstarter isn't going to be enough to help me. I'm actually going to need to go back and get my own money together as well, because I'm broke, and that's it. It's regrettable, honestly, but it makes sense. You gotta secure yourself before you secure your, endeavors. But regardless, he has openly said that he wants to go back to this tech demo and essentially create a full game from it. But in order to do so, he needs to actually, well, secure himself. He'll likely do another Kickstarter when that happens. And in the meantime, he's going to probably take up some more contract work, just to, well, keep himself afloat. There's a video that I'll link in the description that gives a better explanation than I've given of his situation at that point and his outlook for the future. But I figure I at least try to paraphrase it for the people who are interested in this project. Such, who knows, there might actually be some people in the audience. But other than that, there's not all too much to say right now. I've kind of hit the point of Northern Line in that if I don't have too much to say, then let's just leave it at, it's a really good game, and there's not much to say specifically because there's not much to criticize. And really, that is everything I've mentioned. The music is really great, the sound direction is pretty good. It's a really workable engine, it's a really functional engine, and a really technical engine too at that. And I honestly can't wait to see how this project goes in the future, depending on, well, creator stipulations and what have you. With that out of the way, I think I can cut the commentary here and essentially just leave you to enjoy the rest of the footage. Del again. Dale,